Welcome to Channel 24. My guest today is Garry Kasparov. He's a prominent Russian opposition leader, world chess champion, democracy activist, and one of Vladimir Putin's fiercest critics. For decades, he has warned the world about the danger of Putin's regime. And today we will discuss Russia's economy, Crimea, and whether the Kremlin is getting closer to the point where it can no longer sustain this war. Garry, it's always a pleasure to have you here online. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you recently said in an interview that the return of Crimea may happen sooner than many people could expect and think, that a Ukrainian flag over Sevastopol should be one of the conditions for ending this war, together with Russia's bankruptcy. So how realistic is two of these scenarios? Russia's bankruptcy, how genuinely we can imagine it happening, I don't know, within the next few years. And when you look at Crimea, what gives you that optimism, Garry?
Look, it's not an optimism, yes. So I do understand that some of my statements may sound a bit of fantastic. It's just a wish that has no real foundation. But we should remember that this war, was a war of miracles from the very beginning. I'm talking about full-scale invasion, of course, because on February 24th, 2022, how many people expected that Ukraine would survive at all? And now we're on the fifth year of the war, and the table has turned. No, I'm not saying that Ukraine is winning now. But the fact is that Putin failed to achieve his objectives, one after another. That gives you an idea that, there's kind of a scenario written somewhere else, probably just, it's on the seventh heaven, that it's not working in Putin's favor. So somehow maybe, there's a historic justice. And also as a chess player, now speaking about more professionally, I always look at the trends, patterns. And the pattern now is definitely not, working for Putin. To the contrary. It's, as an argument, I could say that we are now in June 2026. Now, are we better off than in December 2025? Of course, we are much, much better. So Putin expected, since Trump gave him one full year to destroy Ukraine, that Ukraine would not survive the winter. And I heard many voices in the free world saying, make a deal, not because too late. Maybe we should give up Donbass and just, accept Putin terms because that will be the end. No, it's not the same. While, again, we should be cautiously optimistic, but not, overexcited, I think that the chances for Ukraine gaining more substantial advantage, they keep increasing every day.
Yeah, I do remember how we were in Ukraine overexcited in 2022. And you do remember, I guess, that too, when we were dreaming to get back to Crimea and drink our, beer there. I know that's not the reality, but still, I'm reading right now the Atlantic article, and they are saying, as many others, that Putin can no longer hide his catastrophe, that everything is not on his favor. But Garry, what is surprised me? Have you heard and have you seen this press conference of Putin just a few days ago when he was telling the journalists his own truth that, we're all winning on the battlefield. Have you seen we are regaining the territories? This is insane. How it's even possible in his head?
Look, Putin lives in the world that is not necessarily, it's coincided with reality, because he gains information from the quote unquote trusted sources. And I doubt very much that there are many people around, if any, that would like to bring bad news to him. I would not call him totally crazy, a maniac. I think this is his statements that are definitely not grounded on reality. There are two elements. One is obviously, he don't want to leave this bubble, and it's very important for him just to keep it probably for his own sake. But let's not forget another one. I think Putin, deep down, he's a political animal, and the fact is that he's there for 26 years tells us that he has very strong instincts. He may not be able to continue the war based on economy, numbers, production, okay, all these material elements. But he cannot end the war. That's so. You always have to look for options. What are the options? And it's a binary system: end the war, continue the war. While continuing the war gets more and more difficult and increasing, costing is increasing, and there's a growing, dissatisfaction among Russians and among the Russian oligarchs and public. But how to end the war? I mean, the very idea of returning 1.5 million soldiers, most of them are just absolutely crazy now, back to Russia. I think it frightens Putin. It's like a nightmare. It will not take long for new Prigozhin to emerge. But also, it's the whole country has been turned into a war camp, a giant war camp. Putin made war his legacy. And what is important, this is not a war against Ukraine. Ukraine is the main target, but this is a war against the free world. This is a war, Putin's he sees that legacy, to restore the greatness of Russian Empire and to bring the whole world, back to the might was right. So to put an end to this global crusade means that he's losing his legacy. And I think instinctively he understands that if he ends the war without meaningful results, at least, getting Donbass, to sell something to the public, he could be cooked. So that's why it's his statements, it's a mixture of this illusionary reality that he built, but also very practical, pragmatic instincts of somebody, a dictator who is in power for more than a quarter of a century.
Speaking about economy, so while Russia is hosting the St. Petersburg Economy Forum with a black caviar and champagne and trying, to project an image of stability and strength, Ukraine strikes energy infrastructure near St. Petersburg. Does it show that even Russia's showcase city is no longer beyond the reach of this war? And I mean, what does it tell to the guests of this economic forum?
Yeah, I saw many jokes about it now. That's that Magyar is it's the guest of honor on St. Petersburg. He has the main stage, presenting his technological accomplishment. Yeah, in practice.
I haven't heard that one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so. Look, I think people who are gathering there, they do understand that things are not looking good. But again, where they can go? Like cage. It's a gold cage, but it's still a cage. They have nowhere to run. And also, it's again, let's just be objective. So Putin still hopes, and people around him, that massive investments Putin made in the free world, politicians, business people, still could pay off. Yes, Trump did what he could. It was not enough. But right now in Europe, we're hearing voices about making a deal. Let's, replace Trump. Let's renegotiate. I just had my articles published in Germany and Britain. So just saying victory is the only viable strategy against Putin, period. Because it's not about ending the war. Because we hear, let's end the war. No, the war can end only when you eliminate the reasons for the war. And the main reason for the war is Russian imperial ambition to destroy Ukraine as an independent state. So Ukrainian statehood is something that doesn't coincide with Russian empire, as Zbigniew Brzezinski said five decades ago. And while Putin never read Brzezinski, I'm sure, but he knows it. So that's why for Putin, destruction of Ukraine is just it's a one-way street. He can't walk away. He can slow down, but making just temporary peace, ceasefire with Putin, I think could eventually make things worse, because his army will not go back, as I already said. It would go elsewhere. And you look at the map. What is next? And it's quite ironic that Europe today I think it's going through this cognitive dissonance, which is based on geography, while countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland, Poland, basically preparing for war. Sweden, the rest of Europe is now scratching their head, thinking, yes, maybe we can just find this kind of a compromise. So it's very clear that this is the only way to end the war is to destroy Putin's armies and eventually to destroy Putin's regime. But saying regime change, you can see the Western politicians, they tremble. Because for me, it's again, it's a triad. Ukraine must win, Russia must lose, empire must fall. So while Ukraine must win, you can hear, difficulties, but still some say that. But the moment you go to the second part, Russia must lose. Yeah, you could see that's them just trying to. It's like a hot potato. Let's throw it. Let somebody else to deal with that.
Yeah. But okay, if Russians are just choosing to stay in that cage, as you said, but some Americans representatives are reportedly going to this Petersburg Forum. I mean, there is one guy from Donald Trump, there is one German businessman, some guests from Saudi Arabia. I mean, after more than 5 years of a full-scale war, I mean, is that the time to, I don't know, to chase a profit and business interest in Russia?
Look, there are many business people in the world, actually many more than showed up there, that would like to cut a deal and just, to leave everything behind. Okay. Actually, I criticize heavily the appearance of Trump, though it's a second or third tier official from Trump administration. Still, that's bad, and I put it on my Twitter. But let's be honest, it's the representation there is not what Putin wanted. And you have there's more people from Taliban than from US business. And of course, what is actually good is there you can see all tools, I would call them tools, voices of Russian propaganda that is on the Kremlin's payroll, like Candace Owens and Rotate. So they all showed up there. So that's somehow is good because now you can understand who is on the payroll. And it's hard to stop because Putin still has plenty of cash and money buys many favors. But again, it's nothing that matches Putin's expectations. He is still it's the isolation is still there. Though again, I'm advocating for much more decisive measures. Now, whether Europe can move that fast, I don't know. Actually, I suspect not. But it's important to put pressure. For instance, I believe that one of the things that Europe should do is recall ambassadors from Moscow. I've been saying it for a long time. You don't cut diplomatic ties, you recall ambassadors. Stop issuing visas in Russia. Yeah, again, you don't cut ties, but if you want to get a visa, you go to Yerevan, you go to Tbilisi, you go to Dubai, somewhere you can go without visa, and then apply there. So start illustrating, start demonstrating, start putting a price tag for everything Russia does. So the fact is that Europe made no response to Russia's threat against Western diplomats in Kiev. And that tells you that's a weakness. And the weakness always provokes more aggression. So that's why, again, we are now, it's a historic moment. We're at the crossroad. I think that the common sense will prevail. But as I already said, billions and billions of dollars invested by Putin over the last 25 years, they're having dividends. It's not easy to deal with the very corrupt infrastructure, whether in business and politics, that has to repay the favors.
Just referring to your previous note that the former deputy chairman of Russia's central bank, Oleg Vyugin, he basically says that Russia now faces a choice: either cut military spending or keep sliding toward recession and falling real incomes. So, I mean, I was thinking, does Putin even have any room left to reduce military spending?
No, he will not cut military spending. They'll start squeezing more businesses. So no, look, it's not going to end tomorrow. Putin still has some resources. It will definitely put extra pressure on Russian population. He will go after many oligarchs, but he still has apparatus behind him to enforce it. How long Russia can afford to continue this kind of war? A year, maybe two. But look, Putin doesn't think that long. So I can imagine that he's being consulted by his generals, and naturally, for generals, the war is business. Why they should end the war? So they present him the document, and let's say, Mr. President, we made a big progress. We actually moved 200 meters. Now, if we continue with the same pace, in 5 days we'll get 1 kilometer. And then look, from here to Slavyansk, for instance, Yeah, maybe, but in 6 months we'll do it. And then Ukrainian defense will crumble. And then the winter is coming, and maybe the winter will be also harsh. So this is again, it's Putin is looking for good stories, excuses to continue the war. And unfortunately, it's not that bad yet because there's no opposition inside Russia, and also the free world, whether it's America or Europe, do not show strengths that will force Russian elite to look at Putin as a liability. I'm sure a lot of people there, they're not happy because every attack against oil infrastructure, that is the refineries, military installations, it's not just attack against the state, it's attack against someone's business interest. Because in Putin's Russia, every even state-owned enterprise has a beneficiary. Somebody just benefits from this production. And these people, this Russian elite, business elite, they are paying enormous price for Putin's war. But at what point we'll get a critical mass of this frustration based on this massive business losses and willingness to take a chance against Putin? Because you fail attacking Putin, you know what happens. Look at Prigozhin. So it's not yet clear. And the free world, unfortunately, does not encourage it. So I've been shouting loud that this do something. I mean, for instance, sanctions, 21 packages of sanctions. How come that Russian missiles that are hitting Ukrainians and killing people every day mostly built on the details and components from the sanctions list? So what has been done? How many cases have been opened, criminal cases against sanction violators? Practically none.
Yeah, just today, Ukrainian president said that not only Moscow is responsible for that strikes, but also everybody who's feeding Russia's war and everybody who's selling these components from the West. So yeah, we are right now having for the third time during the day air raid sirens. You know, Garry, this is kind of a nervous every day. So my next question is: the Ukraine just endured another massive Russian attack, and President Zelensky and the intelligence and officials in the military, they all warned that Russia is preparing an even higher level of strikes in the coming months. So what is Putin trying to achieve right now with this? Do you think that Ukraine going to see another level of attack during this summer, June, July, August?
Look, I hate to be a messenger of bad news, but you know the answer. Putin will continue striking at Ukrainian civilian targets because that's his only way to break the iron will of Ukrainian people. He will keep doing exactly the same by spreading terror. He can win on the battlefield, but that's a part of his strategy. He never look. Unfortunately, it's in the history of Russian Empire. It goes deeper than Putin, but Putin put it just to a different magnitude. Look at Putin's rule. It started with Grozny. You remember Grozny, 2000? This the ruins. Then you should remember Aleppo in Syria. So before Mariupol, before Ukraine, he already illustrated that he has zero allergy for blood. And now it's these instincts, these bloody instincts. They are multiplied by his frustration because he's stuck there. I mean, he knows he's not yet winning, so he's willing to throw more resources. But he expected to be the ruler of the world in 2022. So even 6 months ago, he expected Ukraine to collapse under these harsh conditions. Winter was so harsh. Everybody expected, in Putin's camp that they will never survive this winter. They did. So I think it's a hatred. It's like it's embedded hatred. It's a centuries-old hatred of dictators against free people. And he cannot subdue them, and he's getting angry and angry, so he's willing to kill. It's elderly, women, infants, the toddlers, so it's terrible. But again, it's just what is the response from the other side? I mean, what we hear from United Nations, condemnations. What the hell is this? So it's the impotence of the free world. That's what also fuels Putin's desire to continue this criminal war.
So when Angela Merkel recently said, the former chancellor of Germany, when she recently said that the war will last for the next 10 years, do you think she knows something?
Look, no, I don't know if she knows it's much to make such a prediction, but the fact is that the war goes for so long. That's also it's of her doing. She has been I would call it agent, but in terms of spy, but she was the best agent of Russian interest. She basically made Germany and the Europe dependent on Russian gas. She built, Nord Stream, and Nord Stream 2 was built after annexation of Crimea. She basically paralyzed all the efforts to build a strong coalition against Putin. So we definitely can, we're in a position to actually to ask, whether somebody can produce her Stasi files, because don't forget she was born in East Germany, and I'm always very cynical. So just when I see such kind of behavior, so I think I'm in a position to be very suspicious about her intentions. Now, she definitely wanted to be part of this negotiation process again, and that's why when she says 10 years, it's her way to say that, oh, you need me to make it end, because otherwise it will go forever. And no, we don't need Angela Merkel. No, we don't need Angela. We don't need Schroeder, Merkel. We don't need these people. We need those. We need Ronald Reagan. We need Maggie Thatcher. We need Harry Truman. We need people that understand that is the only way to end this war is to destroy the force, the evil force that has begun it. And it's about victory of Ukraine. I know it sounds just far-fetched, but the victory could be achieved by exhausting the enemy and making the war, it's impossible to continue even for Putin. And I think it's doable. It is doable, and the free world has plenty of resources. So if the Europe is getting united, and eventually America will have a change of the government, so I think we are again in the position to look in the future with some optimism. Though again, the moment I say optimism, I understand that I'm here in New York, you are in Kiev, and we're not in we're not having the same experience. But again, Ukraine already made so many miracles. I think it's wrong to ask for more, but you also have no choice, because Vladimir Putin's goal was, is, and will be to destroy Ukraine and to as a state, and to destroy Ukrainian nation. So I think that's the what's happening in Ukraine now. It's a miracle that will stay in centuries and survive, all of us as the example of one nation defying the all-powerful aggressor, and again celebrating the cause of freedom as ancient Greece 2,500 years ago.
So do you think the decision of Brussels, that they have officially said recently, we're not going to look for anyone to negotiate with Moscow recently? Yeah, there was a discussion in the press about Merkel, Schroeder, and Alexander Stubb, who looks quite, a good potential negotiator in this process. But Brussels said, no, we're not going to talk with the Kremlin. Do you think that's a good idea or not?
Look, again, this is when you negotiate, you have to understand what are your, what are your goals. So basically, if you have, just imagine, European delegation to negotiate, what is on the table? First of all, I don't think that Putin will back down from his demands to take all these territories that he couldn't conquer, in Donbass, and the so-called, as they call it, Russian territories, because he included them in Russian constitution. But even if we imagine, which I think is hard, that he's willing to make some, concessions. So at the end of the day, we have to be objective, saying these negotiations is an attempt of Europe, if it takes place, to sell some of Ukrainian territories for buying time to build their own defenses, because they know Russian attack against NATO is imminent. It may not happen this year, but it will happen. Putin will not stop, because again, war against free world, against NATO, against Europe, it's the core of his legacy. So I don't think that Europe in the position to actually offer any sacrifices from Ukrainians, because that's exactly what is being negotiated. So how can you negotiate on behalf of Ukraine by using Ukrainian territory and Ukrainian lives as your leverage against Putin? So for me, this all negotiations should be left for the moment when Russia will be feeling hit beyond its ability to sustain it.
Okay, then my last question is, we keep hearing speculation that November could become a turning point. I don't know, somebody said that Zelensky said it. Then they just refused to confirm the information. But anyway, it's circulating in our media in Ukraine. Do you think there is any signs of that?
Even November, because don't forget, I live in America. For me, November is a midterm election. So that's why,
Oh, yeah,
though I'm not
that's
an American citizen, I don't vote, but I'm part of American, just political game. So, which also, affects Europe and Ukraine. So the moment you say November, I immediately think about midterm and very likely, actually, most likely, victory of Democrats, which again doesn't change, administration, but it will put checks on Trump's power to move pieces around the board. So I think that will bring good news, because more people that are open for sending aid to Ukraine and just supporting Ukraine and beating Putin hell out of Ukraine. So they will have some levels of power. Not the White House yet, but I think they will control the Hill. So that's good news. As for the November mystical date about the peace, I'm extremely skeptical. So I think I cannot speak on behalf of Zelensky or Budanov when I hear these noises from them, but I do understand that they have to illustrate or present their willingness to negotiate, because it's more of a diplomacy. Just saying outright no might hurt them, and Ukraine depends on European support. It's the life supply, whether it's money, whether it's technology. So Europe is crucial. So I think it's more of a game. And again, I think it's highly unlikely, because again, I saw no reason, and as we just discussed, in the last 30 minutes, no reason for Putin any willingness to start, downgrading his demands. It's still, up to the maximum. And again, I see no way for Putin to get out of this war without declaring big victory. Since Ukraine is not willing to offer him this victory, to hand it over, and many European countries, mostly bordering countries like Poland, Baltics, Scandinavians, Romania, they're also not willing to accommodate the wishes of some more pacified members of EU. So I think that November is if we have news in November, it will be more likely from America than from Ukraine.
Well, I appreciate your time, your insights, your perspective. Thank you so much. And Slava Ukraini.
Always happy to be there. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.